Is called Music of the Storm. So, Roz, do you want to tell everyone what you're doing with Music of the Storm? Because you've been writing a series of articles on Trolls GG for this.
Yeah. Uh, First of all, like Daz said at the beginning, I'm a music educator. I'm a band director. I teach middle school and high school band. I write music for my own band, and also I've written music for various college bands and stuff like that. So, and I also teach music composition to my students, and so it's one of these things that I'm very passionate about is music in video games. Blizzard to me kind of has like a one of the best track records of music in their video games. Russell Browder for Hearthstone is just spectacular. And the guys for Here's the Storm are just killing it. I think Glenn Stafford and Jason Hayes are the guys. And a lot of people, when they play this game, and I'll even admit to it sometimes, is I'll turn off the music for the game. But there's some really good stuff in there. And I just want to sort of, I think one of the great things is that the music doesn't have an MMR or Merc camp timing or anything like that. It's just fun, cool stuff to talk about in the game that no one can really get upset or angry about. So,
how would you rate like Blizzard's go on musical arrangements and composition compared to other video games? Do you think that it's above what we see in other games?
Blizzard's whole thing, from an aesthetic point of view, has always been about getting the right feel. Like they've talked about this in depth with Hearthstone, about even just the visuals of creating the very tactile play board and the UI. They take a lot of they put a lot of attention into making the details just right, and how you interact visually and audially plays a big deal into that. So they appreciate that, and so I give them an A plus. I think they're one of the best.
Yeah, I think you said it. Attention to detail is what Blizzard seems to be good at with every aspect of the game, and I think they understand that it's not just visuals that complete the experience. The music's an important component of that. I think if they could touch on your other senses as well, like smell, they probably would try to do that too. But that might be a little bit difficult with current technology and such.
Yep.
So what are you doing with the Music of the Storm series you've been doing?
So I just published chapter 2 a couple weeks ago, and all I'm doing is going through the soundtrack. They released it on iTunes and on YouTube, and you can just go into the game and listen to it. But I do one song per week or per article, and I talk about what's going on in the music, what you could be listening for. And I don't have the score to these. I'm just listening because I know what to listen for, and give you like some historical perspective. What other pieces of music does this sound like? What instruments are you hearing? How are they being used in a way that tells the story that they're trying to tell? And just paying attention to the details that they are very meticulously putting in there. So the first article I did was on The Battle Begins, which is the anytime you listen to an HGC commercial break, that's probably the song you're going to be hearing. And then last week or a couple weeks ago was the music from Cursed Hollow, which is the one we're going to be doing tonight.
Yeah, and after reading your articles too, I feel like I get a new appreciation being someone with the untrained ear to go through these and be like, oh, okay, like that's what they're going for. And it almost makes me feel like I should know a lot of the stuff, maybe not the technical bits behind it, but like the story that you tend to bring forward in the actual musical piece. Be like, oh, that makes much more sense, and you can actually feel it, and you can feel that kind of those emotions as you go through. And I definitely suggest, if anyone checks out these articles, is to listen to the music as you're reading what Roz puts out there, because you can almost follow along and hear the story. And that's what we're going to try and do today with Cursed Hollow. So do you want to set the scene here before I start the musical piece?
So we're going to be doing Cursed Hollow, and so let's set the scene. So a Cursed Hollow, in the game is this nightmarish sort of forest, and that's what it is. And if you want to make some comparisons, one of the comparisons I make in the article is Sleepy Hollow. If you're a Tim Burton fan or a Danny Elfman fan, The Legend of Sleepy Hollow with the Headless Horseman, that's what brings to mind. A hollow is like literally a hole like in a tree or a decrepit town, and that's what this is. Um, so to when we're composing music for that, obviously we're going to be going with very dark, ethereal, mysterious, brooding types of music. And when we do that, we compose music in a minor key. There are major keys and minor keys. Major is usually used for bright sounding, happy music, and a minor key is used for dark music. And all you have to do is change a few pitches and it becomes minor and dark. So, yeah, I guess I'll tell you what we're going to hear first, and then I'll kind of take you through it as we go, and then and we'll get started. So before we get started, when I tell this story, this is the story that I have come up with for what's going on in the music, and this is what I think is happening.
It's canon,
and it's sort of and it's sort of informed by the lore of Heroes of the Storm, where the Cursed Hollow is one of the domains ruled over by the Raven Lord. You gather his tributes in Cursed Hollow, and he's also in charge of the Haunted Mines and the Towers of Doom, where coincidentally the Headless Horseman is the boss on that map. So anyway, but what you're going to hear when we start this tune is just a concert A, the pitch A, right on the middle of the piano is going to just doom, 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 doom. It's going to be very dark and ominous. And when a pitch like that is repeated in a rhythm or a pattern, we call that an ostinato, and it's supposed to give like a sense of drive and urgency. And then on top of that, it's going to build this very ethereal theme in a minor key. And as you listen to it, you're going to me, I imagine us walking into the Cursed Hollow. We hear the root of the chord, that concert A, and those are like the roots of our tree, of the trees in the forest. And then as we build it up, the notes expand and go higher. We start to realize how big and ominous these trees are in the forest, and then we will eventually get to the center of the Cursed Hollow. So I guess we can go ahead and start it, and I'll just try not to talk over it too loud, and we'll pause halfway through, and I'll tell you where.
Sure. Just tell me when. Here we go.
All right, so there's that concert A. It's very ominous. And there's that melody, C, D sharp, F, E, dee da dee da. Those are the roots of our trees. We hear these are only strings. We've got bass cellos in the bottom, and then all the higher strings are coming up on top of it. So you're going to hear some brass voices like the French horn come in, and they're going to make the melody go even higher. Our forest is getting more and more complex and lush. And pause.
Wow,
Right,
you feel it really building there too, eh?
Yeah. So we've gone through this winding path of dark, twisted roots that are probably filled with blood or something, and we've made it to the center of the hollow. And I recently watched the Johnny Depp Sleepy Hollow movie, and so this is kind of vividly in my brain. Um, but I imagine us getting to the center of the hollow, and there's the Raven Lord. He's coming out, and he's not too happy that he's been woken from his slumber, and he demands tribute. But at this point, you're going to if you are a Danny Elfman fan, and Danny Elfman is the composer for all of basically all of Tim Burton's best films, like the original Batman in the 1990s, uh, Edward Scissorhands, Beetlejuice, Big Fish, if you've seen Big Fish. But he has this sort of flavor to him that is just very dark, and he loves to use like upper woodwinds on top of that, like the clarinet, and he just has this very specific flavor. And the composers for Heroes of the Storm, I think, are paying homage to him. It's almost like a copy pasta of Danny Elfman. So we'll hop in here, and all you can hear really is Danny Elfman to me. So here we go.
Let the journey continue.
Yeah. Like, imagine the beginning of Edward Scissorhands here. You hear all the clarinets going. Ooh, that's so Danny Elfman. All right, can we pause for 1 second?
Yeah.
All right, so again, we've made it to the center of the Cursed Hollow, and we're sort of amazed by what we're seeing. And like I said, he has all these dark tones underneath, contrasted by very elegant, chimes and glockenspiel or the bells. And so you hear these ding, 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 ding. And so it's something that's very dark and ominous, but something that's also very mystical at the same time. And so now we're about to hear what I call the Raven Lord's theme. And it's just big and boisterous, and he's flying all over the place, just kicking butt and taking names. And it's going to have a couple things going on. You're going to hear what's called counter melody or counter motion. So you're going to hear one melody going in one direction, going up, and you're going to hear another melody going in the opposite direction, coming down. And as those two sounds collide, it creates a sense of momentum and tension. And it's going to pay some homage to like Mars, the Bringer of War by Gustav Holst, which has this if you're familiar with that. But it's this very warlike theme, and I think it's pretty cool what they do here. But anyway, it has the Raven Lord theme, and then it has a counter version of that theme, and then his war theme towards the end. Here we go. All right, here comes this war theme. So that war theme at the end is Mars Bringer of War is probably most notable for being in 5/4. It's a meter that has 5 beats in every measure, and so you feel a pulse of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and that's what the ending there has. Da 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 da. And so it has this really offbeat feel, whereas usually music has like 4 beats in a measure, and it's a little bit more symmetrical. When you add that 5th beat, it adds this sense of urgency and uneasiness, and it's just very war-bringing. And so I think that's a pretty direct homage to Mars Bringer of War. But yeah, so that's it. I sort of left out some things that are kind of hard to tell, as we're going through it. But if you check out the article on trolls.gg, I include a lot of video links for comparisons. Like I mentioned, all these Danny Elfman tunes that are being referenced. You can check those out. I also added in some for you music theory buffs, if that's something that interests you. I even go into like what special type of scale this uses, and I show how you create those scales, and I even have some audio, some videos of me performing those scales rudimentally on a piano. You can check those out, and there's all kinds of references in here. There's references to Jaws, there's references to Mars, there's references to Danny Elfman, and so I think that it's really cool that these composers, while we don't hear a lot of what's going on because we've clicked Control M and it's turned off while we're playing the game. There are so many depths of levels of intrigue in Blizzard's games. Down to interactivity in all of the Hearthstone play mats. To just really cool bits of, I see what you did there. I love those cheeky sorts of things that composers and artists do, and that's what these guys are. They're artists. So
yeah, it's amazing how in the short span of 5 minutes, a musical piece can take you through so many emotions and tell that story. And as I mentioned earlier too, it's difficult as someone with an untrained ear to pick a lot of that out. And when someone like you goes through these in your articles and just today talking about talking us through it all, it's almost like I can't believe I didn't see that. And you get this almost like moment, and like I said, I get chills when I listen to this song after hearing a bit more of the story behind it. It's almost like you're watching a movie, like audibly, if audibly is a word. But yeah, it's amazing what you do. I feel like you're uniquely qualified for this too, because not only do you have the musical experience and background, you're also an educator, and you also love the game too. So taking all those elements and putting it together really lends to a great series that you're doing. So what can we expect next? What's chapter 3? I'm excited. No, I don't even know what it's going to be.
I was trying to decide. A lot of people were asking for some Overwatch music and like comparing Overwatch music to Heroes of the Storm music and how Overwatch is being implemented into Heroes of the Storm. So I might take a look at that, like Hanamura. I was also looking at Blackheart's Bay, so that might be on the chopping block here.
Cool. Well, Roz, thanks for taking us on that journey, and look forward for the journeys to come with chapter 3 and forward. So if you're looking for more of Roz's stuff, you can check out trolls.gg. He's a regular author there. Just look for anything that's Music of the Storm. We've got the first 2 chapters that have already been done. We're going to be seeing more in the following weeks to come.